Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to head up to Norway once again, and we're going to return to a brewery that I only introduced to you here on the channel for the first time quite recently. I was really impressed with that last beer that I had from them, but that was actually a collaboration with another very well-known Norwegian brewery. I saw a few weeks after that they were releasing another beer through Systembolaget, and I thought, well, why not? Let's do a dedicated review to this brewery. So yeah, hopefully this is another good beer from them, and I hope that you guys enjoy my take on it. Always nice to review some Norwegian beers, and I do hope that over the next while we start to get a bigger variety of Norwegian breweries down here in Sweden as well. But yeah, for this review then, we are going to head to Trondheim once again, and we're having a look at another beer from Monkey Brew. So this particular beer is called Hyperspace. It comes in 8% ABV, and this one is a double imperial New England hazy, whatever you want to call it, IPA. But it says on the bottom here, a double dry hopped oak cream double IPA. Maybe that's a more accurate description. But yeah, like I was saying, this is my second beer involving this brewery. The last one that I was referring to a minute ago was the Save the Turtles, which they did in collaboration with Lervig Aktiebryggeri from Stavanger, a little bit to the south. And that was very, very nice actually. That was a beast of a beer. But yeah, we got this beer here in Sweden through Systembolaget as part of the Tillfällig temporary assortment sometime in the middle of March 2021. I forget the exact date that this beer was released, but yeah, I saw another one from Monkey Brew and I thought, well, why not? Let's have another one of these and do a dedicated review to this brewery. But yeah, really looking forward to trying this one. I enjoy reviewing the Norwegian beers, and I hope that we can get a bigger variety of Norwegian breweries down here over the next little while. I've not managed to find someone who could be my Norwegian beer mule yet, so if you are watching from Norway and you're happy for me to send you some money, you organise a beer box for me, that would be awesome. Contact me through like Instagram or Facebook or whatever. That would be awesome to have someone in Norway doing that as well. We've already got Finland, Slovenia and various other countries covered, but Norway is one that I still haven't managed to do yet. But definitely nice to return to Monkey Brew once again. Fingers crossed this is another good beer, and I hope that you guys watching enjoy my take on it, this one as well. An 8% New England double IPA. So yeah, let's see how we get on then. As always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Monkey Brew before, and fingers crossed we can add a little bit more to that list in the near future. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you happen to be interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Norwegian beers that I've reviewed for you. That's being added to whenever I get the opportunity, not as often as I would like, but hopefully we can continue to add to that steadily over the next little while. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other Norwegian beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about the brewery then. So as I've mentioned to you already, the brewery is based, Monkey Brew are based in Trondheim, which is about a quarter of the way, maybe a third of the way up the Norwegian coast, and the company was founded back in 2014. But the three men behind it are Bjarke Vang, Paul Rolfsson and Jörg Solheim, who actually commented on the last video I did involving the brewery, which was pretty cool. But the three guys were home brewers, and they brewed in an attic apartment in the city for about 4 years, but they went on to win several awards at the National Homebrewing Championship in Oslo back in 2013, and this gave them the chance to brew their Doppelbock at Nygna in Grimstad, and you know, this proved to be the spark that turned them into professional brewers. But the following year in 2014 they opened the Habitat bar in the centre of the city, and this very quickly built a reputation for both its beer and its pizza. But they initially brewed their beers in the basement, and later they moved the brewing to a new facility at Nyhavna to the northeast of the city. I think that was maybe in about 2017 or so they moved out of there, if I remember rightly. But over the years, they've been expanding this brewery, and they bought some equipment from another brewery that went defunct, and they've got quite a bit of barrel aging going on up there as well now, from what I understand. I couldn't find a figure for what volume of beer they're producing, but as of March 2021, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced 125 different kinds of beer. So yeah, I think that's somewhere that I do need to hit up at some stage. I've heard that Trondheim is very, very nice. I do need to explore Norway a little bit more. I'd love to go and see the likes of Molde Trondheim, Stavanger and stuff like that. I love to go all the way up the Norwegian coast. I think that would be awesome just to drive that and see what it's like. Very long journey, of course, but you know, the Norwegians are very nice, and it's a beautiful country. So yeah, maybe something that we can look at some point in the future, and hopefully we can do a few out and about videos in Norway at some point too. But yeah, I mean, that's all I can really tell you about Monkey Brew for the moment. Hopefully we can get to Trondheim and maybe do a Meet the Brewery segment with the guys and check out some of the pizza. But yeah, maybe that's something for the future. But if you want to learn more about the brewery and the Habitat Bar in the meantime, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on. And you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all those different beers that they've done. So yeah, let's get on and actually have a taste of the beer itself then. So, as you can see, this one is quite similar in terms of artwork to the other one that we had before. There you can see the Monkey Brew symbol there, and that is also on the back of the can too. To give you a little bit about the stats of this beer, I wrote these down along with my notes on the brewery. This one is an 8% New England Hazy Double Imperial IPA, however you want to kind of piece these parts of the style name together, but it's hopped with Sabro, Victoria's Secret and Citra, and it has a malt base of Bonsack Hop Shiner malt, which is a Norwegian maltery, if you like. So it's got a Norwegian pale malt in it, it's got Golden Promise, oats, and then Bonsack pale wheat, along with some lactose in it as well. So I think this one should be quite interesting. I like the fact that these guys use some Norwegian malt in their beers, because that gives you a nice bit of a kind of unique Norwegian point about them, in fact. But yeah, Sabro, as we know, I think that's about 14-15% alpha acid. It gives you a lovely orangey note and a bit of coconut. American hop, Victoria's Secret from Australia, which is the little brother of Galaxy, some nice kind of passion fruity, mango-y type notes out of Victoria's Secret from what I remember. And then classic, of course, Citra. Citra is the classic American one, 14% alpha acid, mangoes, a little bit of citrusy character to it as well. So yeah, I think this one should be quite nice. I think I paid 60 Swedish kroners for this beer. So yeah, normally you would pay about 50 for a Swedish equivalent of this, but like I've told you in other reviews, when it comes to an imported beer, usually you pay about 10 kroners more, €1 more, because the import company has to, you know, make a little bit of profit as well. But yeah, I mean, 60 kroners is about €6, about £5.35 or something like that sterling, and then maybe about $7 American. For a Norwegian beer, when you consider how strong the economy is, labour costs, and you know, blah blah blah, all of this kind of thing, it's no bad. You know, it's 60 kroners. I don't mind paying a little bit extra to get some of the Norwegian and Danish and Finnish stuff and things like that. So yeah, pretty cool actually. It says on the back here, this one, jump to hyperspace, kid. The smugglers were in deep trouble as the soldiers of the sun were approaching. There was no way they could finish transferring the hazy yellow liquid to the hyper tank in time. As he activated the hyperspace jump, the stars blue shifted in front of them. Where would they end up? Yeah, so as you can see, it does have a little bit of a kind of hyperdrive sort of thing there. So yeah, hyperspace. I do like that. Black top on the can, of course, 440 millilitres. Let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting. I'm really curious to see how this beer turns out. And like I say, it's a bit of a novelty to have something different from Norway, because, you know, it's all, you know, it's usually Lervig and Amundsen that we get, and their beers are really good, but it is nice to have a little bit of variety as well. In recent times, we've had the likes of Untappd, is it Lindheim's, the brewery, the sort of farmhouse brewery that's up there, I remember the name right. We've had Hufjell, the Seven Mountain Brewery, who I think they might also be from Trondheim as well. We've had Alstman, who I know are from Trondheim, and we've had somebody else from Stavanger as well, actually, if I remember rightly. But yeah, it's nice to have another brewery I haven't had before from Norway. I know that Sallycat are starting to get out there a little bit more in recent times, so fingers crossed I can pick up some of their stuff to review for you as well. My OCD is happy now, and we can have a little look at the beer itself. But yeah, this one should be nice. Curious to see if this one's as good as the last one we had. But yeah, you can see this beer's poured with about a finger of a very bumpy Perfect White head. It's got one or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass and a few little ones just going up towards the bottom of the head there. You can see that it's a lovely kind of bright yellow colour, this one. I always like comparing New England IPAs to different fruit juices, because that's really just what their appearance reminds me of, and I would definitely compare this one to a mango juice. You know, it's got that lovely kind of bright yellow colour to it, of course. But yeah, the colour of your beers are dependent on a couple of things. One, the type of malts that you use in the first instance. Two, the length of your wort boil. The longer that you boil the wort, the more the sugar's caramelised, thus you get a darker colour of beer. But yeah, it is dependent in the first instance on what type of malts you use exactly. But then, you know, you have things in there as well, like, you know, barrel aging and adjuncts are going to affect it, but that is not at play when it comes to this particular beer. The level of haze in this one is fairly decent. It's not the soupiest and gloopiest 8% double IPA, New England double IPA that I've come across, but yeah, there is a fair degree of haze. Remember, your haze is dependent on the wheat and the oats, and you know, it varies from brewery to brewery. The yeast can also play a role in that as well. But in terms of a New England IPA, nothing particularly surprising about this beer in terms of its appearance. You can see that the head has just faded away to be a nice sort of thin foamy layer, and it's leaving a good little bit of a ring around the edge of the glass there. So yeah, it looks very, very nice, I have to say. So yeah, nothing surprising about this beer in terms of its appearance. Let's take a closer look at the aroma and just see how we get on with this one. So yeah, that smells pretty nice. It comes across as a little bit farmhousey, and that's one of the things actually in the last review when Jorg commented on it. I thought this was you know, the WLP London Fog, but he was saying that it's actually another company that they're using their yeast from. So I need to remember to research that in time for my next Monkey Brew review, because he was saying they use I can't remember the name of the company now. I'd never thought to look that up. It's just the aromas reminded me of it. But yeah, no, he commented and he said that these guys use a different yeast in their beers. But I think, you know, it comes across quite farmhousey in a way that you get similarly. It was the Gamma beers from Copenhagen that this one reminded me of. The last one reminded me of, and this still reminds me of some of those beers actually. But yeah, the first thing you'll notice with the aroma of the beers here is that it does have a good degree of a kind of farmhousey quality to it. It's got a little bit of a sort of Jacob's cream cracker kind of thing going on, and just a little touch of woodiness as well. That forms the backbone of the beer. So yeah, there is quite a bit of a yeasty character in this one, and as I've told you in previous reviews, when it comes to New England IPAs, I think there's quite a few. There's about 6 directions I think you can take these in. They can be sort of yeasty and farmhousey, rye and grainy, wheaty and bitey, oaty and creamy, barley malt leaning and sort of bready, and then they can be a little bit brown sugary as well. And quite often these beers will display multiple characteristics. But yeah, this one in terms of the aroma, it really comes across as quite farmhousey. But I remember with the last one, that was in the aroma, and it was kind of like a minimal component in the flavour, if you like. But yeah, you definitely get the same out of this one. It will be the same yeast strain, I would think, that they're using in this one. But yeah, a little bit of woody character to it. It's got like a sort of Jacob's cream crackery sort of thing in there. At the back of the nose, you do get a little bit of wheat out of this one. You can smell a little touch of wheaty bitiness for sure. But that Norwegian wheat that they've got in here, like I said, it's the Bonsack. Is that remembering that right? Bonsack. It's that Norwegian wheat that they have in here, and it actually comes across as very smooth. It's not the bitiest of wheats that you're going to come across, but it does have just a little bit of that wheaty bitey sort of thing going on. You can definitely smell a bit of the kind of powderiness of the oats. And this one you get a bit of that oaty sweetness, but at the same time it just has a little bit of a kind of powdery character, which I can really appreciate. So yeah, that's quite an interesting point about this beer as well, for sure. But in the middle of the palate, in the middle of the nose, you do get a little bit. There is a wee touch of a kind of Werther's original sweetness, this one, but it actually has an almost. It's kind of interesting because this beer really comes across as being a little bit sort of porridgey in its malt base. You really do get a little bit of that sort of wet porridge sort of thing out of it. So yeah, that's really interesting for sure, definitely. Yeah, I mean it's just interesting how that goes together. You do get a lot of oats out of this, and the more that I smell of the beer, the more the oats come across as being sort of wet, if that makes sense. So I really can appreciate how that side of this beer, how that side of the beer goes together, in fact. So yeah, quite a wet, oaty backbone to the beer. It's got a good bit of a kind of cream crackery sort of thing, a little bit of wheat, but as I say, quite a smooth wheat in my opinion, and you can pick up a few of the yeasty components too. So it's a really interesting smelling beer, this one, I have to say. I like how I do like how everything kind of pieces together in the malty side of the beer. But remember, the last one tasted quite different from how the aroma, than what the aroma gave you the impression of. So we'll bear that in mind. On the hoppy side of things then, let's focus on that. There's a wee teeny bit of earthiness to this one, but the green component overall is very bright and very floral, in my opinion. So yeah, there's quite a lot of brightness and floral quality coming out of this beer, which I really like. There's a good little bit of a grassy, zesty note to this beer as well, which I think is quite interesting. So yeah, it's got a lovely, just a little bit of zestiness there as well. And I think that, if I remember right, that will be coming both from the Citra and from the Victoria's Secret in this one. Maybe not so much the Sabro, in fact. So yeah, Sabro always gives you a little bit of that kind of coconutty note, and you can smell that kind of mixing in with the malty side of the beer as well. But yeah, the green component for me, nice and floral, a nice little bit of zestiness. And I mean, overall, I do like how that pieces together in this one for sure. But yeah, the malty and green component of this beer are quite nice. What I will say about this beer is the fruity component is really interesting. This strikes me as quite a citrusy leaning IPA for sure. So straight away with this one, you can smell that big, almost sharper mandarin-y. It's like a mandarin-y orange that you get from Sabro in this case. You can smell that straight away, but you also get a good little bit of a sort of lemony character coming out of the Citra in this one too. Citra is capable of giving you a little bit of lemon lime, and I definitely get that. I mean, I find it a bit more lemony. I'm trying to see if I get, there is a wee bit of lime in there, definitely, at the front of the nose. These fruity notes are like right at the front of the nose. So yeah, there's a good bit of a sharper mandarin-y orange in there. There is a bit of lemon, and I think the lime comes across as just a little bit more, almost not juicy, but a little bit more kind of oily, if that makes sense, and not quite as pungent for sure. But yeah, those all blend together with the really nicely with the sort of grassy component of the beer as well. So I can really appreciate that with this one as well. I mean, it's a really interesting. It's really interesting how that pieces together in this beer for sure. But yeah, it's quite a zesty leaning one, this. You do get a wee bit of a kind of passion fruity and mango-y note out of the beer too, and that'll be the Citra and the Victoria's Secret that are both going to give you that. You get a wee bit of that pungent passion fruit, but a softer kind of mango note in there as well. I do get a wee bit of pineapple out of this one as well, come to think of it. But yeah, it is quite, I do find this one, the tropical fruits are a little bit more pungent. There's a good little bit of more, there is a good little bit of a more sort of there is a good little bit of a more kind of zesty, citrusy kind of character coming out of this one. So yeah, I think this is a quite an interesting smelling beer for sure. So take a bit of time and just, ponder over the aroma of this before you get stuck into it. But I think it's about time we have a taste of this one. I'm very curious about it. So yeah, this is the Hyperspace, a New England double oak cream, double dry hopped, whatever you want to call it, IPA from Monkey Brew in Trondheim up in Norway. Nice to have another Norwegian beer for you here on the channel. Hopefully we can get more soon. But let's get stuck in. Slàinte, skål, cheers. Yeah, that's very nice actually. Again, and like I said earlier, that sort of, this beer in the aroma, it gives you the impression that it's going to be very, very farmhousey. It's not. It's actually, I mean, I really like how this one goes together. The first impression, how about this? The other one was really very, very thick, if you like, but that's, it's a triple IPA, so you're going to get that. But this one, I think, it just strikes me as a little bit more balanced in a sense. The triple IPAs for me, they're nice, but they're, it's a bit of it's almost a little bit of an excess, if you like. I like them every so often, but I think this double IPA, I'd be curious to see what these guys have, for like a 5% and a 6.5% or something like that. I'd be curious to see how these guys do the lower end of the spectrum, because my first impression of this beer is that this has a really nice balance between the malty side of things and a juicy fruity character. So I can really appreciate how this thing pieces together. I think this is a lovely beer actually. So thumbs up to Monkey Brew once again. They've got some solid stuff coming out of there for sure, definitely. It's just got a lovely slickness to it and a fruity juicy quality. And the malt is it's really nicely done as well. It's just a really balanced beer, this one, I think, for sure. So yeah, I like this one. Definitely need to get up to Trondheim and have a little look at Habitat and have a chat with these guys. That would be cool. So maybe, yeah, hopefully, we'll say hopefully, I can do a Norwegian, a couple of Norwegian Meet the Breweries. That would be great to do. But yeah, let's break down the flavour of this beer and see where we go. So middle third of your palate then. Straight away you can feel a little bit of that kind of pale malty kind of quality just blanketing the middle of your tongue. And I would say with this beer, it doesn't come across as being overly thick, if that makes sense. Like this one, it has, compared to the one we had from that was the collaboration with Lervig, this one doesn't feel anywhere near as thick as that. It's the juiciness, the way that the fruits come out is quite similar, but the malty character is quite different. But you get that nice kind of pale malty thing just going right across the middle of your palate. You can feel on top of that, it's got a little bit of that kind of cream cracker sort of thing. It does have a wee bit of that sort of Jacob's cream crackery type quality in the malt base as well. And if you go to the front corners of the palate and then diagonally back, you will get one or two little hints of a kind of woody characteristic to the beer as well. So yeah. So yeah, nice little woody undertone to it for sure. The more that you go into the aftertaste with this one, you can feel the oats, I think, take a little bit of time to come out of the beer. This one does feel as if it's a little bit more kind of balanced in terms of what's going on with the malt base. So you definitely get a little bit of the kind of barley malt sort of thing, and you also get the oats there, and there is a wee bit of the wheat on the back third of the tongue as well. This one's got a really nice balance between those. Well, I should say four, because the yeast is in there as well. This one's got a really nice balance in the malt base for sure. I think that's, I like that. I mean, a lot of people say that having a good IPA is all about the hops, and I mean, yeah, this is a hop forward style of beer, but there's no point in it unless you can get a nice balance in the malt base to back that up, in my opinion at least. But yeah, the malt balance, the base and the balance that they have in the malt base, I think works really well. So if you go down that middle line of your palate, if you just go right down the middle line in that middle third of your tongue, it's got a really nice kind of smoothness to it for sure. In the very centre of your palate, you will get a little bit of that Werther's Original kind of butter candy type thing, but it's quite minimal in fairness. You don't get too much of that, I would say. So yeah, it has a very nice it has a really nice sweetness to it as well. The sweetness, I think, takes a little bit of time to come out, and the oats come across as really nice and sort of smooth as well. They do have an element of creaminess to them. They don't really have that dry powdery thing that you can get sometimes, but you can feel the sweetness of the oats. The further you go into the aftertaste, you get a bit more of the kind of Werther's Original and oaty smoothness and sweetness type flavours out of it. You feel that right in the middle of your palate, and then yeah, you feel those other pale malty and kind of bready components in there as well. Maybe as you move out from the centre of the palate, you get a little bit of a sort of biscuity thing, and I find that's something that you can get with Golden Promise a little bit, but I think that covers the middle third of your palate quite well. On the border region between middle third and back third of your palate, you can feel there's a little bit of a slightly thicker breadiness. You do get a wee bit of a bread crusty, grainy quality to the beer, and in the back third of your palate, you can feel there's a nice sort of smooth, wheaty, there wheaty base to the beer as well, and there is a little bit of bitiness at the very back of the palate, but not too much actually. It takes a little bit for that wheaty bitiness to come out. Then you can just feel the sort of more airy, yeasty flavours kind of coming out on this one. After that, in fact, you do get a little bit more of just that airy yeastiness sitting out on top of that back third of your palate. So the sort of top of the flavour, if you like, in the back third of your palate is kind of up here. Then as you move further forward again, you can feel it just kind of fading away a little bit. Then it drops down, and then you've got a more kind of condensed concentration of flavour, if you like, in the middle third of your palate. But yeah, the malty backbone of this beer is very nice. On the hoppy side of things then, let's crack on with that. In the back corners of the palate, you've got a nice little bit of earthiness there. As you move further forward along the side of the palate, you do develop a little bit of a herbal quality, and as you reach the kind of front corners of the palate, you the floral aromaticity does push its way out a little bit more for sure, definitely. But yeah, it's not. I think we're actually catching this beer. Obviously, it's going to take a few weeks for it to come down to Sweden and be distributed around the place. But we're getting this beer, I think, in very good condition just now, because I think it's double dry hopped. And if you have New England IPAs too early, they come across as quite green, especially if they're double dry hopped. You get a bit of that dustiness on the side of the palate there. But I think we're catching this one just in a really nice condition, actually, where it's just the hops have just mellowed out, because the green component of this beer, I think, comes across as just having a nice sort of deep but still quite bright floral aromatic note to it. So I like that about this one. Round the front curve of the palate, you've got a little bit of zestiness there on the grassy side of the beer, and again, I can really appreciate how all of that pieces together in this beer. I mean, I think this is it's a very nicely executed beer, this one. It just it works really well. The green component, I think, goes well together with the malty side of things. But let's focus on the fruity part of the beer, because I think that's probably my favourite part of it, actually. But the whole thing is just so well balanced. In the border region between front and middle third of your palate, again, you get this little bit of a doughy thing and a bit of a bread crusty grainy note in there as well. And the base of that front third of your palate is a little bit smoother and a little bit more kind of bready and things as well. So yeah, the way that works, it goes together really nicely too. Absolutely. So yeah, the fruity notes in this beer, I think, are very, very nice. It's interesting. I mean, with Sabro, I've always got this thing in my head with Sabro. I think coconut, and I'm trying to figure out for the life of me if there's a bit of coconut in this. But honestly, I don't find it that noticeable. If you go to as I always say, on that front third of your palate, though, you get that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters roll their way out of the beer. And then if you go to the back of that front third of your palate, you will get a wee bit of that strong, kind of more pungent, passion fruity sort of thing. Both Citra and Victoria's Secret are going to give you that. So those are both responsible. But as you move further forward, it mellows out a little bit. You start to get the mango. You start to get a wee bit of a kind of a few other lighter tropical notes in this one. But yeah, I think that the back half of that front third of your tongue is overwhelmingly passion fruit and more of a kind of oily mango-y type quality. But then yeah, as you reach the front half of that front third of your tongue, you get a little bit more of I say, orangey note out of this one. You can feel the Sabro coming out a little bit more with that oily and almost more, I think it's a more mandarin-y note. It's got a really strong citrusy type quality to it, but then underneath that, as you reach the very tip of the tongue, there's a bit of a more concentrated lemony type note for me. I think that's the Citra that's giving you that, in fairness, and there is a bit of lime as well, and that kind of mixes in with the grassy side of the green component too. As I say, I don't find there's maybe a teeny hint of coconut. If you go to the very middle, like a line across the middle of your tongue on that front, right between the front and back halves of that front third of your tongue, in there is a little bit of a line there, and there's a tiny hint of coconut in there, but I don't find the coconut from the Sabro so noticeable in this beer. But I really like the sort of oily slickness that the fruits have in this beer at this point. I think it's just this beer's in a really nice condition at the moment, and I think that suits it. I would love to try them on tap, actually. I'd love to try a couple of these beers on tap straight from the source and just see what they're like, because obviously they will sit in the can a little bit before I'm reviewing them here, but as it stands, it's in good condition. I like it. But yeah, in terms of the mouthfeel then, to round off the review, I think we've said all we really need to about the flavour of this one. For me, this is quite I'd say that it's kind of top end to mid-bodied. Carbonation's very smooth. The mouthfeel overall is quite slick. It's a bit of a slick and more oily leaning New England IPA. Nothing wrong with that. In terms of IBUs, I think this is maybe about 30 or 40 IBUs. It's fairly standard for the style. The malt base, like I say, has a good bit of smoothness to it. It develops a bit of sweetness the further you go into the aftertaste as well. So I can appreciate that. It comes across more and more smooth, actually, the more that you drink of the beer. But the fruits, I think, highlight this one It's got a lovely, just oily and but still quite juicy, fruity character to it. But for me, this beer is really all about how everything fits together. I think it's just one of these ones where everything just seems to click, you know. And of course, you've got the fact that I think it's in very good condition at the moment on top of that. So yeah, this beer gets a big thumbs up from me, and it does make me curious about some of the other things that these guys have got on the go. But that's 2 IPAs I've tried from them now. I think when it comes to Monkey Brew, I'd be curious to try a more kind of West Coast IPA and see what that's like. You know, a black IPA if they have that. I love black IPAs. A lager, maybe something from the dark end of the spectrum. I'd love to try a few different styles from this brewery. So I don't know what they've got planned in terms of releases here in Sweden over the next little while, but you know, hopefully at some stage I can get a hold of a few different styles from them and see what those are all about. But certainly this is a really nice one, and if you can get a hold of this, the Hyperspace, I think you will enjoy this one for sure. So yeah, let's round off the review there then. This was the Hyperspace, a New England double imperial hazy New England oat cream whatever IPA from Monkey Brew. The main message to take away is that this is really nice, and I think this is a brewery that we need to check out. I do hope I can get to Trondheim at some point. But yeah, really enjoyed reviewing this one for you. I do check out this one, and then let me know some other Norwegian breweries that I should be checking out in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Monkey Brew. You know, let me know what the best beers are in Trondheim as well, and where I should visit in Norway when eventually I do get up there. But thanks again for watching. Check out my social media, check out Monkey Brew, and I hope you enjoyed this one. This was the Hyperspace 8%, pardon me, New England double IPA from Monkey Brew in Trondheim up in Norway. Slange, skull, cheers, and catch you guys in the next review.